Hey guys, how you going? In this video I'm going to be showing you how to use the toString method in JavaScript. So basically this method is going to give you the string representation of an object. So as we know, strings are easy to work with, so obviously having a string representation of an object can definitely come in handy. And it comes in handy for things like logging, auditing, or scripting work. And by scripting work, I mean doing things like running small little helpful Node.js scripts, cron jobs, and things like that. And what's really cool about this method is it is overridable. And this is essentially where it comes in handy for yourself to go ahead and actually write your own logic and implementations of the toString method to make it useful in your own projects or scripts. Okay, so I'm obviously going to be showing you how to override the toString method. It's relatively straightforward, but I do want to start by just showing you what actually happens when you call the toString method on existing JavaScript objects, because some native objects actually have already implemented the toString method. So some objects already provide their own representation of themselves as a string. So I'm going to be showing you that right now. So let's go inside the text editor, and I've got this main.js file down here included inside that HTML file. So let's head inside this JS file right here. And we're going to begin by logging out the result of the toString method on a regular JavaScript object. So we're going to say console.log and pass in here an empty object.toString. Okay, I'm then going to save this and refresh, and we can see here we get object and then object. You may recognize this string, it appears almost everywhere. Things like when exceptions haven't been handled correctly and things like that. So by default, every single object in JavaScript has a toString method, and by default what it gives you is essentially these open brackets, the word object, and then the type of the object. So I'm going to be showing you what this method gives you when you call it on an array. So let's go back inside here and say console.log object.prototype .toString and then .call and then pass in an array. So as you can see here, I've done it a bit differently, and that's because arrays are actually already overriding the toString method. So I actually want to get what the array would give me if it wasn't overridden, and that is why I'm calling the toString method on the actual object itself, so object.prototype. Okay, and then of course by calling the call method, I've got a video on this by the way. By calling the call method, you essentially, whatever you pass inside here is then going to be used for the method call. Okay, so now I'm going to save this and then refresh, and now we can see we get object and then array. So we can see here by default the toString method is going to give us the object and then the object type. Okay, and that's the default behavior when you have not overridden the toString method. So obviously being able to override the toString method is where it comes in handy, and of course where it's the most useful. So let's see an example of that with arrays themselves. Okay, so let's just go back inside here, and we're going to say now console.log. This time I'm going to say essentially, you know what, I might actually just make an array. So I'll say const my array equal to an array of 2, 4, 6 and then 8. Okay, so now I'm going to say console.log. I'm going to say my array.toString. So now as you can see, I'm calling the toString method on the array, okay, and not using the object prototype. So now I'm calling the overridden version, the customized version of the toString method on the array. I'm going to save this now and refresh, and we can see now we get a comma separated list of each element in the array. So this definitely comes in handy. In fact, I just found out about this. I didn't know the arrays actually give you the comma separated list, and I'm definitely going to be using this a lot more often as opposed to the join method and then passing in a comma. Okay, so let's now go back inside here. I want to show you what happens when I then say console.log, and then I say here is my array, and then say plus, and then my array. So this time we are bringing the object itself. We aren't actually calling the toString method. We're instead just appending the object as if it was a string to this string. So now we're essentially in the context of a string and we're logging out the array. In this case, because we are in the context of a string, we are saying string plus object. In this case, JavaScript is going to automatically call the toString method for us. So now I'm going to save this and refresh, and we can see we now get once again the comma separated list of the elements. I also want to show you what happens when you're going to use this method on the URL search params object. So let's go back inside here and make a new constant called search params equal to new URL search params, and pass in here some key value pairs. So I can say name and then DOM, then I can say age and make DOM 26 years of age, or let's just do 46, why not? Cool. So for those of you who don't know, essentially the URL search params allows you to quite easily construct query strings, and I'm going to show you what I mean in a few moments. But here we've just essentially just made a new URL search params instance. So now I'm going to say console.log, and I can say here are my search params. Once again, calling it, giving the object, the search params object, in the context of a string. So now it's going to be calling once again the toString method, and of course the URL search params of course has its own version of the toString method. So now I'm going to save this and refresh, and we can see it has given us the actual query string that is encoded perfectly fine. So as you can see here, we have the power of the toString method. You can use it to customize your objects and give different results based on the object you are actually calling it on. So those are two examples right there of the toString method being already implemented on native JavaScript objects. Okay, so now I'm going to be showing you how to actually implement them yourself using ES6 classes. So let's go back inside here, and I'm just going to be removing all of this code, and we're going to start from scratch by creating a new class. We're going to be creating a new class called rectangle, and inside here we can do a constructor, and the constructor is going to take in a width, a height, and a unit. So essentially that's going to be a unit of measurement. We can then say, of course, this.width is equal to width. Same thing for height and unit, of course. Okay, so now we have our instance properties set up. We can now just go down here and make a new constant, call this myRect, equal to a new rectangle, and pass in here 5, 8, and then centimeters. Okay, we can then say console.log, here is my rectangle. Okay, and we can say simply, as before, adding the myRect object to the string. I'm now going to save this and refresh, and we expect to see object and then object as normal, because now with our rectangle class we haven't overridden the default toString method, so it's using the default right there, giving us the object and then the type. Okay, so now we're going to go back inside here and actually implement or override the toString method. So I'm going to say toString just like this. Okay, so making a new instance method or method on the rectangle prototype to essentially return here a custom string. So we're going to say rectangle just like this, and we're going to say essentially open bracket, and we essentially want something like this. We want the width times the height, and then we just want the actual units just like that. So we're going to be using ES6 template strings to achieve this. I know a lot of you guys actually always mention that. I forget to mention that I'm using ES6 strings, so I'm using the backticks right here on the keyboard. Okay, so inside here I'm going to say $ curly braces. I'm going to say this.width and then multiply by or times, and then this.height. Then of course follow that with this.units. So right here we've successfully overridden the toString method. We have the width times the height and then the unit. I'm now going to save this. Actually, let's remove that colon. I'm now going to save this and refresh once again, and now we can see that we get rectangle 5 times 8 centimeters. So we have successfully overridden the toString method. Okay, so once again, here are the benefits of the toString method. Now, of course, this will then work if you were to extend the rectangle class. So for example, let's say I want to make a colored rectangle. Let's go down here and make a new class and call this colored rectangle, which will extend the rectangle. Okay, inside here we can once again have a constructor which will take in a width, a height and a unit, but also a color. We can then call super and then pass in width and height, so of course calling the square constructor. Then we can say this.color is equal to color, and this is of course our custom behavior or attributes of a colored rectangle as opposed to a regular rectangle. Okay, we can then just go down here, make a new constant, my colored rectangle equal to a new colored rectangle, pass in here something like 15 and then 8. Okay, or let's do 3. Okay, so 15, 3. Let's make this now millimeters. Okay, and give it a color of blue. Then I can say console.log, here is my rectangle once again, and say plus my colored rect. Save this and refresh, and we can see here we get the exact same result. This time of course having 15 and 3 and then millimeters. So of course if we wanted to, well here what's happening is essentially because the colored rectangle extends the rectangle, it is using the toString that is found on the rectangle because it couldn't find it on the colored rectangle. Okay, so we can simply implement the toString method once again, this time on the colored rectangle, and we can simply say return, and then once again using the ES6 template string, so the backtick on my keyboard, and we can essentially just call the super version of this, so super.toString. Of course, super refers to rectangle, so calling the rectangle's toString method and then simply adding some extra information. So I can say here something like this.color in square brackets. So now I'm going to save this and refresh, and now we get the custom behavior specified on the colored rectangle. We can see here we get blue in square brackets while still maintaining the existing toString method. Now of course you don't need to include this super.toString. If I was to just remove this for example and then save this, we now of course only get blue. So anyway, I do want to show you one more thing, and that is essentially the prototype example I showed earlier on the object and the array. So if I did want to force the usage of this particular toString method on one of these colored rectangles, then I can of course just go down here and I can say console.log. Once again, here is my rectangle. Okay, and I can now say plus, then I can say rectangle. So rectangle.prototype.toString.call, and then pass in here the my colored rectangle, and essentially we're doing the exact same operation or the exact same behavior as we did earlier with the array and the object at the beginning of this video. So we're calling the toString method with the call method, passing in the colored rectangle on the rectangle prototype. So saving this and refreshing will now give us, well, we're now back to the original toString method specified on the rectangle as opposed to the colored rectangle. So definitely give it a go, guys. Override the toString methods on your own objects and your own classes, and of course have fun. Alright, that's all for this video, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.